the Tiara Club at Pearl Palace. Princess Grace and the Golden Nightingale. Vivian French. Chapter 1. One of the lovely things about being at Pearl Palace is that we have really interesting lessons. We do get the usual boring ones as well, like maths for the modern monarch, oof. I am so not good at maths, but on Fridays we have special topic classes, and they're fun. We've had spinning wheels, and how to avoid them, frogs, and how to tell if they're enchanted, and 2 whole Fridays learning how to tell unsuitable princes that we don't want to marry them. I thought that would be simple. Don't you just say, no, thank you? But I was wrong. Apparently you have to be very kind and gracious so they don't rush off to fight dragons. When Fairy G, she's the head fairy godmother at the Princess Academy, told us we were going to have a special topic lesson on royal artifacts, I was thrilled. Well, I was after I discovered what artifacts are. I wasn't exactly sure, but Hannah told me they're things that tell you about how people used to live. Like ancient pottery bowls, or wooden clogs. And then she said she was going to take us to King Rodolfo III's private museum of royal life, and we were absolutely beside ourselves with excitement. We'd been there before when we were in Silver Towers, and it was brilliant. I'm afraid King Rodolfo won't be there when we visit, Fairy G told us. He's away on a royal tour, but we're invited to see his brand and the Golden Nightingale new collection of musical artifacts. Musical artifacts? We stared at her. Fairy G smiled her enormous smile. There's a magic harp, and a silver flute, and a pipe that will make rats follow you. Yuck! Lucy shuddered. We don't have to play it, do we? It's safely under lock and key, Fairy G reassured her. But the most beautiful thing by far is the Golden Nightingale. King Rodolfo has it on loan from a Chinese emperor, so we're very lucky to see it, and guess what? What? What is it, Fairy G? None of us could guess at all. King Rodolfo has allowed Pearl Palace to a musical party at his museum in the evening, and the Nightingale is going to sing. Wow! Hannah spoke for us all. That sounds amazing! But then Diamond asked, how can a golden nightingale sing? It's not real, is it? It's clockwork, Fairy G explained. It was made hundreds of years ago, and it sings as beautifully as a real bird. Nobody knows who made it, but he or she must have been very skillful. Humph. Diamond sounded really unimpressed. Gruella and I had clockwork toys when we were babies. I don't see what's so special about this one. Fairy G raised her eyebrows. Do I understand you don't want to come with us, Diamond? Diamond shrugged. We'll come, she said. After all, King Rodolfo is one of Mummy's best friends, Gruella added. But he won't be there, Fairy G reminded her. He's asked his son, Prince Giorgio, to show us the musical instruments. Prince Giorgio? Really? Diamond and Gruella sat bolt upright. Then they suddenly realized we were looking at them and tried to pretend they weren't bothered, but it was too late. Even Fairy G was chuckling as she asked, so what's so special about this young man? Diamond put her nose in the air. Nothing. Gruella said, he's very nice and then squeaked because Diamond pinched her. Well, we'll see for ourselves at the end of the week, Fairy G said cheerfully, and we went back to our lessons. Chapter 2. We left for the Royal Museum as soon as lunch was over on Friday. Fairy G had said we could wear party dresses because we were staying for the concert, so that made us feel very special. Right, everybody here? Fairy G asked as we climbed into the coaches. I haven't seen Diamond and Gruella yet, Sarah said. Fairy G made a tut-tooting noise and went to check the other coaches. She was just storming back to Pearl Palace when the front door opened and Diamond and Gruella tottered out. What are they wearing? Isabella gasped. They can't even walk, their shoes have got such high heels. Prince Giorgio must be really special, Ellie said with a giggle. I don't think Fairy G looks very pleased. Sarah and Hannah were watching out of the other window. Look, she's telling them to go back inside and change, she's furious. It was true. Fairy G grows much bigger when she's angry, and she was positively enormous as she shooed Guillemond and Gruella back into the building. Of course we had to wait until the twins had changed, and that made us late starting, so Fairy G got even crosser. She was huffing and puffing by the time Guillemond and Gruella reappeared, and she told them to hurry into her coach and not waste any more time. Gruella muttered, "Sorry, Fairy G," as she got in, but Guillemond didn't look sorry at all. When we got to the enormous drive that led to King Rodolfo's palace, Guillemond began to wriggle about, and I saw she was taking her shoes off. Then she fished in her handbag, and I saw she'd brought her extra high heels with her, after all. Is that a good idea? I asked. Fairy G won't be very happy. Mind your own business. Guillemond snapped. You may not mind looking like a baby, but I do. Mummy says I look especially grown up in these. I didn't know what else to say, so I didn't say anything. Guillemond gave me another black look, but she did put her super high heels back in her bag. Little Miss Teacher's pet, she hissed. I suppose you're going to sneak to Fairy G. Of course I won't, I said. Guillemond shut her bag with a snap and grabbed Gruella. Come on. Let's get out of this coach. It's much too full of horrible telltales. It was a good thing Guillemond wasn't wearing her special heels, because Fairy G was standing right outside our coach as we got out. Beside her was a prince who looked about the same age as us, or maybe just a little bit older. Although I don't usually notice boys much, I did think he was quite handsome. Guillemond went fiery red. Oh, hi there, Prince Giorgio, she said in a weirdly breathless sort of voice. Haven't seen you for ages and ages. The prince looked surprised. Oh, hello. You're, Gruella? Guillemond positively snorted. No. I mean, actually, no I'm not. I'm Guillemond. This is Gruella. Nice to see you both again, Prince Giorgio said, but he didn't sound as if he meant it. My dad said I was to show you the way to the summer house and open the door for you. This way, please. Guillemond immediately slipped her arm through his and gave him a sickly smile. I'm so looking forward to seeing the magic nightingale, she gushed. Is it really as lovely as I've heard? Poor Prince Giorgio. He was too polite to take his arm away, but he looked very uncomfortable as he said, You mean the golden nightingale? Yes, I suppose it is a bit special. Gruella pounced on his other arm. Will you be coming to the party afterwards? She asked him. I do hope you will. Guillemond. Gruella. Fairy G clapped her hands loudly, and I was sure I saw a twinkle in her eye. Could you come back here, please? Grace, would you and Prince Giorgio take my bag to the summer house while I take the register and make sure we haven't left anyone behind? Chapter 3. If looks could kill, I'd have been dead, but even Guillemond didn't dare to disobey Fairy G when she spoke in that tone of voice. I thought as I walked through the museum garden beside Prince Giorgio. I wonder what she'll do now. Giorgio gave me a sideways smile. That was kind of your teacher. I probably shouldn't say this, but I can't stand those twins. My dad knows their mother and they sometimes come here to visit, and they never stop showing off. They're a bit like that at school, I told him. I think maybe they don't have much fun at home, but I don't know. It's nice of you to make excuses for them. The prince smiled at me again. Will you do me a favor? Will you make sure I don't have to dance with them at the party tonight? I didn't know what to say. I'd never met this boy before, and already he was acting as if he'd known me for ages. I'll do my best, I said. Tell you what, I'll talk to my friends. There are 6 of us in Lily room, and we could take turns to dance with you, if you like. Phew! Prince Giorgio looked much more cheerful. That would be great. I was terrified I'd be stuck with the twins all evening. He stopped at the summer house and unlocked a big wooden door. Here's the exhibition. Do you want a quick look at the golden nightingale before the others arrive? I didn't answer. I was so surprised by the inside of the summer house. It was quite small, but the roof was made of glass, so it was incredibly light. There were glass cases all round the walls full of weird and wonderful musical instruments, but in the very center of the room was a round marble table, and on it was a golden cage. Prince Giorgio fished in his pocket and pulled out a golden key. Bending over the cage, he wound something up. I could hear a clicking noise, and then stood back. Listen to that, he said proudly, and after just half a minute I began to cry. Why was I crying? I don't know. It sounds so silly when I say that, but it's true. It was the music. It was so utterly beautiful, but it wasn't because it was sad. I think it was because it was so perfect. I'd never ever heard anything like it. I'm so sorry, I sniffed as I looked round for a hanky. Prince Giorgio gave me a cheeky grin. I knew it would. Nice people always cry their eyes out the first time they hear it. Just wait until tonight when I wind it up properly for the concert. We'll need a mop and a bucket by the time it's finished. That made me laugh, and I was still laughing as Fairy G came stamping through the door with all the Pearl Palace students behind her. Diamond and Gruella flew to Prince Giorgio's side, and I saw him frown as they clutched his arms. Dio, show us the nightingale, Georgie darling. Diamond begged. Please, please, pretty please, with cherries on the top. Make it play. Gruella gave him the soppiest smile. You played it for Grace, so play it for little me. Prince Giorgio looked at Fairy G. Would you like me to wind it up again, Madam Fairy? We'll wait until the concert tonight, Fairy G said firmly, but thank you for asking. And I'm sure you've got plenty of things to be getting on with, so please don't feel you have to stay here while we have our special topic lesson. I've never heard such a huge sigh of relief. Prince Giorgio gave Fairy G the widest smile and disentangled himself from Diamond and Gruella as quickly as he could. As he moved away from the marble table, I saw the little golden key lying by the nightingale's cage, and then Diamond's hand shot out and took it. She was so quick I almost thought I'd imagined it. I stared at her, wondering what on earth I should do, but then I caught Prince Giorgio's eye, and he gave me the tiniest of winks and put his finger to his lips. He'd seen her take the key as well. And he didn't want me to say anything. I'm hopeless at winking, so I gave him a little smile. I'll see you all at the party tonight, he said cheerfully. The orchestra will play a few tunes, then the nightingale will sing, and finally we'll turn it into a proper party with lots of dancing. He gave me a cheerful wave. See you for the first dance, Princess Grace. And then he was gone. Chapter 4. I didn't have time to tell my friends about dancing with Giorgio because Fairy G launched straight into her lesson. We were shown all the different instruments, and she told us about princes who had been enchanted by musical instruments, and princesses who had calmed horrible savage beasts by playing the harp or the flute, and lots of other stories as well. It was really interesting, even though Diamond kept trying to squeeze in beside me. And a couple of times I thought I heard something tapping on the glass roof, but when I looked up there was nothing there. Fairy G ended by showing us the golden nightingale. It's one of the musical wonders of the world, she told us. If you listen to a real nightingale, and then to this one, you'd never be able to tell which was which. The only difference is that a real nightingale sings a slightly different song each time, whereas this one is always the same. It isn't very pretty, Gruella said as she looked at the little bird in the cage. Real nightingales are even plainer. Fairy G smiled at Gruella. Sometimes a very plain outside can hide a beautiful secret. Diamond sniffed. I'd much rather be beautiful on the outside. Fairy G gave her a strange look, but before she could say anything there was a knock on the door, and Prince Giorgio hurried in. He looked as if he'd been climbing trees, or working in the garden. His hair was on end, and his clothes were covered in dirt. As he passed me he half-tripped, and if I hadn't been in the way he'd have fallen flat on his face. As he straightened up I saw he'd left several large smears of mud on my dress. "Oops," he said. "I'm so sorry, that's terrible." "Oh dear. You'd better come back with me, and we'll ask the housekeeper if she can clean it." "It's okay," I said, and I tried to brush the mud off. "No, no, I insist." He gave me a quick nudge with his elbow, then turned to Fairy G and gave her a little bow. "The housekeeper asked me to tell you that tea will be ready in 5 minutes, Madam Fairy. I'll make sure Princess Grace's dress is okay, and then we'll see you all in the banqueting hall. We're serving tea there, if that's all right." "Thank you." Fairy G's eyes were twinkling as Giorgio steered me out of the summer house. Diamond and Gruella looked like thunderclouds. As soon as we were outside Giorgio grabbed my hand. "Look in your pocket," he whispered. "What?" I stood still in the middle of the path, and stared at him. I was beginning to think he was completely mad. "Go on. Please." He looked so anxious that I sighed, and fished in my pocket and nearly collapsed in amazement. "It's the golden key." I gasped. Giorgio smiled very proudly. I knew Diamond was up to something as soon as I saw her take it. I climbed up on the glass roof to watch and I saw her slip it into your pocket. But. I stuttered. Why would she do that?" Giorgio shrugged. "I'd say she doesn't like you very much." I handed him the key, and we began to walk back to the palace. "Thank you very much," I said. I'd have felt awful if I'd found it there. Giorgio grinned at me. "I think Diamond and Gruella have some kind of plan." "But don't worry." "So have I. Don't say a word to anyone about the key." "Promise?" "Okay," I said. "Good," he gave me another wink. "Now, let's get tidied up." Chapter 5. The housekeeper managed to get almost all the mud off my dress, but she sent Prince Giorgio to have a bath and change his clothes, and I didn't see him again before tea. I found my way to the banqueting hall, and while we were eating I told my friends in Lily Room about Giorgio's problem with the twins. "I promised I'd ask you all to take turns dancing with him," I explained. "Is that okay?" Isabella giggled. "Do you think Diamond and Gruella will let us? You know how good they are at barging in. We'll have to make sure one of us is always ready to take over at the end of each dance," Hannah said. "Oh, look! Here he is now." Hannah was right. Prince Giorgio came sauntering into the hall, and to my surprise he went straight over to the twins. They fluttered their eyelashes like mad. "Dio, sit beside me, Georgie dear," Diamond said. "No. Sit beside me." Gruella pushed her sister out of the way. Prince Giorgio bowed in the most princely manner. "I'll sit next to you both," he said, and settled himself between them. A moment later a page came running into the room. He rushed over to Giorgio, and whispered urgently in his ear. The prince frowned, stood up, and went to speak to Fairy G. She listened carefully, looking more and more horrified. "Pearl Palace princesses," she boomed. Please think back to when you were in King Rodolfo's summer house. This is most important. Did any of you see a key lying around? A little golden key? Nobody said anything. I could feel myself beginning to blush, and I so hoped no one was looking at me. Diamande put her hand up. Please, Fairy G, is it the key for the nightingale? It is, Fairy G said. Why have you seen it, Diamande? Diamande shook her head. I haven't, Fairy G, but Grace might have. She and Prince Giorgio were listening to it just before we came in. I definitely heard a tweeting noise. Every single head turned in my direction, and I knew I was bright red. So, Grace? Fairy G was waiting for me to answer. Well, we did listen to the nightingale, I said slowly, but I don't know what happened to the key. I'm so sorry. Why don't you have a look in your pocket? Gruella's voice was very shrill. Why would I put it in my pocket? I asked. It's there. I know it is. Isn't it, Diamande? Gruella pointed at me. She wanted to get Georgie into trouble. Diamande gave a silly simpering laugh. I think you might be right, Gruella. Prince Giorgio stepped forward. May I suggest something, Madame Fairy? He asked. Might I suggest we ask Princess Grace and the twins to empty their pockets? Fairy G gave Prince Giorgio one of her long thoughtful stares. Then she nodded. That's an excellent idea. Very slowly, I emptied my pockets. They were empty. At the exact same moment Gruella emptied hers. They were empty too. Diamande sneered, put her hands in her pocket and froze. What? She shrieked as she pulled out the little key. What? What's this doing here? I put it in Grace's pocket and then she burst into loud noisy sobbing and ran out of the banqueting hall. Chapter 6. I'm not sure that I really think Giorgio should have slipped the key back into Diamonde's pocket, but Hannah and Sarah don't agree with me. They say she deserved it. And they teased me a lot that night about how much Prince Giorgio liked me, but I noticed that they danced with him just as often as I did. And so did Isabella, Lucy and Ellie. It was such a fun evening. The concert was lovely, with all my favorite tunes, and when Giorgio brought out the golden nightingale and wound it up it was completely magical. As the little golden bird began to sing I could see first one and then another of my friends rubbing their eyes, and tears were absolutely pouring down Fairy G's face. The only people who didn't think it the most beautiful sound in the whole wide world were Diamande and Gruella. They were standing to one side just looking bored, and do you know what? I felt sorry for them. Just imagine not being able to appreciate that glorious silver voice trilling and warbling and filling your head with the most wonderful pictures. The dancing was brilliant too. The twins were sent back to Pearl Palace before it began, so Prince Giorgio didn't have to worry about them, and neither did we. We whirled and twirled until we were dizzy, and laughed just about non-stop until the coaches rolled up to take us home. Thank you for a lovely evening, I said as Giorgio came to say goodbye. Thank you, Grace, he said. I haven't had so much fun in ages. Promise you'll come again? And I don't know if he was asking me, or all of Lily Room, but it would be fun to see him again. Friends need to see each other, and I do so hope we'll see you again very soon. Pearl Palace wouldn't be the same without you.